the near side. You put a square on the anvil, or cube, or 90. I'm tilting my hammer slightly to hit that small spot. Don't go past a quarter of its dimension. And then I would get here. You know, this is good practice. I'm going real slow, but you avoid the shoulders. And instead of, you know, doing it again where you might hit the shoulder, just go back and forth where it's high, right there. Of course, you can get a lot more done if you really attack it and, you know, learn to control. Hit where you mean to hit and control the steel. You'll learn very quickly hitting these small spots. It teaches you accuracy, and when you miss, you'll miss. It won't do much. It might bend it if you hit off. But yeah, learn how to do this, and you'll get as good as anyone else gets. I'll show you the near side first, and a few different things you can do on there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with just like a square on the anvil, and turn it 90 every time. Go all the way around. When it gets close to your shoulder, just go back to the shoulder, and you can take it down a little bit further this time, beyond the quarter dimension. And you can also, by getting on the anvil and tilting, you can hit that way. I'm not going to keep doing this because it's cold, but you can actually light your metal up this way also and keep it hot. Just turning, you know. Okay, well, so I'll have to speed up a little bit now that it gets so small because it gets cold faster. But I'll be doing the same thing. It is most effective to keep your metal off the anvil, and it's going to teach you a lot also on turning your material. So I'll go ahead and start that way. And I want to avoid the shoulder, so I'm going to get on the anvil, and I'm just coming back to it now, the shoulder, instead of what I did earlier, go right back to the shoulder. But, you know, watch your metal develop. Try and keep it square, and you know, keep it active. Okay, this time I'm just going to start at the shoulder, at the base of the material, where the forging starts and stops, and then move with a tilt on the anvil to show that more than the other way. But I do prefer the other way. So I'll take and reduce it. Sit small, and I'll get on the anvil and move up. You'll probably get more comfortable with this quicker. And yeah, it's a little over 2.5 inches long now. But if you're going to make a ring, you might want to think about getting about as long as your anvil and then round it up. I'm not going to bother with making a ring here. I will show you the rolled scroll. That's good to practice. But so this next heat, I'll just stay down in here. I could finish this, you know, even at this heat. If you said that's where I'm satisfied. It's not perfect or anything, but so you see where my shine is, where I'm stopping my hammering. I'm not going to be hitting any of that this next time. Where it's planished. There, see, I'm just going to be hitting like here on and let it spit out. And you do want a nice taper, you know. Don't be moving this different ways as you're doing that, because that will bend it. Anytime it bends, people have a tendency to bend more, you know, but to straighten, you get your material square and level with the anvil, and you just hit the dies. You run it through the dies like on a power hammer. The same thing would occur if you raise or lower or go side to side and hit diagonally across your material. It tend to bend or bend this up or down. So be aware of that. Okay, just knocked it. I bent it. So just hit here and let it squirt out a taper. And yeah, if you hit this real fast, you'll light it up even more. Than it's staying red, but you'll light up more. So now I'm going to say that's as far as I'm going. Now I'm going to move up the material, hold it straight, back and forth, and just moving up. And you're basically straightening and planishing. And yeah, I didn't move it, but see how much it grew just from this part here. Now what I'm not going to round this like I normally would for a roll scroll, but you have to have the structure there to be able to roll a scroll, and no cold shuts, you know. And it's the smallest part, and you need an extended taper also. If it gets too thick too quick, it won't roll anymore. And so I'll show you that. I'll do it on the end. We'll put your hammer out of the way, and I'll get a pair of tongs and I'll heat it up here. I'm not going to turn the camera off just to unclog it during this, but just get a tong that'll hold that small part. And this is easier to learn than on the mandrel, you know, like I did on the ring, just on your anvil. And when I do silver, copper, and things like that, gold, I'm going to do it on the anvil, and I'll hold it with my hand. Now it is good to get reserve heat in the bar, your big part of your bar, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now I'm letting it soak a little bit, but I didn't want to run it into the back, and that gets pretty hot pretty quick, and bend it. So you want to come out pretty quick. You want to grab the end, and you want to bend it 90 degrees and hold it straight up and down, and bear into the anvil a little bit with your holding hand, and start rolling it one way or the other. Don't roll one way and then try and roll another way. That will definitely stress it. So I want to bring it, hold the end, push down, and then start rolling. Now I normally stop right now, and I'll go ahead and show you because I feel the tension. I have a really light hold where I'm holding. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's starting the roll. Now if I would have continued, it would have just broke right off. But you do need to hold it, bear it down. That's what lifted that little piece up there, but so it rolls there. If you don't and hold it tilted, it can roll over your material like a corkscrew type thing or something, and you don't want that. So I'll heat it up again, and I'll bring it right back out. And don't bump this on anything. You can actually do some rolling in your forge, but I'm not going to. You wouldn't be able to see it. But you need to keep the pieces square to each other. It's not going to roll especially a square piece, doesn't roll as easy as a round piece. Just like bending round is easier than bending a faceted piece. Like square, you don't stay square, it's not going to bend. I'll do one more, and just I wish I had a glass bottom or something where you can see what's going on underneath here, but and keep your tongs off the anvil. And I should stop now. It's cooled off, but I'm not going to. I'm going to continue to roll, and yeah, keep it square. And now it's stopped. I can feel the tension. And now it's going to, see, ring off. And there's your, I call a roll scroll. I discovered this 2009 Valentine's Day, making rings, silver rings, instead of using tongs. But it's a neat little deal. You can hit that piece too. A lot of times I'll take a bob punch, ball fuller, whatever, and hit, or you can see it's proud. That's the piece that's twisted, and I'll hit it, and that's a rolled scroll. And yeah, I wasn't making anything, but don't leave these laying around. I'm just gonna throw it in my metal bucket here, scrap bucket. And the end looks, it kind of matches what the other side had, the other end. And that's an easy start for making points or whatever, for whatever next piece you're going to do. A lot of times I'll file the twisted part, and you get more of that twisting with the square piece, of course. The lines, you probably can't see that on that camera. I can see it, but it's just like you twist a piece of square stock a lot. So we'll do the far side next time, and I want to do the similar thing. I'm going to put about a square over material. I'm not counting the point there, but I'll put about a cube over. And this time I'll be able to hit all four sides. Now if you were to make a leaf, an isolation, that'd be different. You just do it two-sided. Or with round stock you can do three-sided, 2 or 3. And square is good to learn on. I didn't realize, Lyle's the one who started doing that. I prefer round, of course, but square will enable you to register your own self to the facets. They should be lining up on both sides, so it makes sense to, when you're starting to learn square stock. But round stock is more efficient because of the surface area that you start with. So here we go. So here's the far side. Hold an angle about a cube over, round surface of your hammer, and bring the lump on. So I'm going slow, and I'm tilting the hammer too. Don't hit straight with your hammer down. You hammer down straight, and the last bit on the anvil. If you want to planish that, I don't want to hit any more, but I'm going to use the flat surface of my hammer. And I didn't hit up here, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. I didn't want to hit more. And the same thing, you just do little lumps. Then on the anvil, flat surface. And anyway, I didn't want to hit more up here is why I didn't bring my flat hammer back. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get rid of that, where my forging starts and stops, where it's true material, and then where it's been touched with a hammer. I'll put it right there at the edge, and I'll hold it straight again, and I'll start half hammer face blows, hitting back and forth, and I'm going to get rid of this piece and show you another thing. Okay, and I'm just going to stay at that half on, half off, right at the edge here. There it is. I'm tilting the hammer slightly. It makes a reverse taper, and unless I take that down, like I just did a little bit, it'll kind of get in your way. Anyway, I'm just going to keep going. It'll stay hot. See, I'm just hitting smaller spots. If I want to straighten it, get on the anvil a little bit more, 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 a little bit more. You know, take this one out this way, and that one out there. Now I'm not going to get into this because there's a lot of stuff I could be talking about here, but you want to do a lot of this so you'll understand what's going on more before I get into what I end up doing when I'm making a lot of things, and why this doesn't bend when you start working up here so much. It doesn't kink. It bent, but it did not kink. If you got that hot and tried to do what I did up here without hitting it here, that small part would definitely kink. But the hammering put some strength in it. Anyway, I could either break that off or I could roll the scroll. I'll go ahead and roll the scroll again since I didn't just break it off. The main thing is practice these, get comfortable with it, and then make something. Don't try and make something before you learn how to make something. And being efficient with your hammer blows and creating strong structures will save you a lot of time. Hanging with a piece just to make it won't teach you a lot. But you do these exercises here. I'm showing you, 5-10 times. We did contests too, doing just that near side one. It's a great little contest, and people got good real quick. Just taking 3 heats, see how long you can make it, and then with the third, do the rolled scroll and see how short you can make it. So we got judged 3 different times, and everyone who participated learned a lot. The one that stood around and watched didn't learn a lot. Anyway, push down, and I'm going to go ahead and wring it off, And that one, I don't know if you can see it, is typical of what will happen if you just do it all in one fell swoop, except when you're using the things like the copper, silver, and spring steel. It left a hollow where it stopped on the piece of material. That's where you need to take a heat, and before it stops on the material, you kind of encourage that to tuck itself where you don't get that hollow hole in there. You can see it better on that side probably. But anyway, yeah, just get rid of that too. And now I'm going to show you the middle taper. Those were end tapers on the end of the material. And now I'm going to show you where you isolate in between. Like say you're going to make a leaf, a flower, or whatever, something, a pad to mount something with or whatever. You're going to isolate, and you want to work in between 2 different isolations, starting with the far side and go to the near. And yes, don't go past 1/4 of its dimension. I hope you understand what that means. A lot of people did not, but they didn't say anything. But this is 3/8 square stock. If you were to take and make 4 pieces of 3/16, that's a quarter of its dimension. So yeah, if you took an inch of this material and worked it down to 3/16, it would be 4 inches long. I'm just going to, probably end up taking 3/8 of the piece of material. I'm not going to get into how I know that. The can of worms you're going to open up talking about this too much. There's a lot of subtle stuff about this. But I know by hammer blow, the distance it falls on, say, 1/2 inch and 3/8, what it starts hitting, and then how it grows on whichever side. And I found that I end up grabbing about 3/8 of material when I'm working 3/8 in the middle. If I start where my forging starts and stops, and stay there, hold your shoulders. So here it goes, on far side first. I'll go relatively slow. I shouldn't, because you don't get as much. Oh, here we go. So, let me get that off. That's something that's probably the flux from earlier. Where's my rasp? Yeah, that's what that was. Okay, anyway, I'll heat it back up. Now I could have measured this bar too, but you're not really, using much. I grabbed a cube on the near side. Your hammer does hit the other side when it drops your shoulder a little bit, so it distorts it somewhat. But I hung a quarter or 3/8 cube over the edge, and yes, it definitely gets hammered on the anvil, is where the movement occurs on the hammer face blow. But I hope this camera picks up this, because you can pretty much see, just like I can with my own eye, the start of a hammer blow, and then holding on the near side. So yeah, don't go past a quarter of its dimension on the initial breakdown. So about a cube, I'll leave. Okay, and leave it square. Now where the 4D starts and stops, right there, I'm going to put the shoulder up 180 degrees to the previous shoulder, and turn it 90 and 180 to the other shoulder. And yeah, I'm going really slow, but you can see the hammer blows better at this, and try not to hit your shoulder. And when I do this with quarter inch, it's funny, I've even done it with my real big hammer. They wonder, how do you not hit that shoulder when it was, it was up here, it's already grown that much. Well, I'm tilting it, and it doesn't hit the shoulder. If you were to go like this, like most people think I'm always hitting like this. I hardly ever hit like this, unless I'm planishing or just taking a little bitty height. I'm usually hitting here or here. Sometimes I do these, but it's usually tilted, and a lot of people don't understand or don't realize that. So you see the middle of that middle taper, or whatever you want to call it, that middle isolation. there's a high spot. Now I can go a little bit further on the near side, which is what I usually do. I was going too slow before I hit that high spot. But you don't want to go past a quarter of its dimension too soon when you still have high material to take down. Once you take it down to the level of the rest of the bar, yes, going beyond a quarter of its dimension on either side is okay. You won't get the kinks. You might get bends, but you're not going to get kinks and things that will stress and break your metal. So I'll take the near side down just a little bit. Guys, I'm trying to. Okay. Alright. See, it's smaller than that. Now I can hit here. I usually use my rounding hammer. You can use your square. And I don't want to hit this shoulder, but I can go here. See? And hit that. So now I've got a very slight taper. I'll go ahead and hit that. That's just with my flat tilted slightly. And, you know, depending on what structure you want to make, whether you want to taper this way or taper this way, like for a leaf, hairpins this way, stick pins, whatever. And yeah, whatever length you need. It's not past a quarter of its dimension yet, which would be 4 pieces of 3/16. It's proud of that. So I'll do it like I was going to do a leaf or whatever. I'll start here and take it down lower than this. And basically you can go back and forth. You get real quick and slick about it. You'll do a lot. You'll do all this in one heat and more once you understand and learn this. And yes, keep it square. Okay. So, and yes, hold it straight from now on. You don't need to tilt it anymore. But just hammering there, see it gets smaller than the rest. Now I can come back here, tilting my hammer. Or I come back here, lower this more. Then move up into it, tilting my hammer. Then hit the shoulder. Okay, so I've just now made a smaller structure and gone just a little bit beyond a quarter of its dimension. Right at that, almost. It's a little bit beyond though. Okay. And it's almost 2 inches long. But yeah, it's a little bit smaller than four pieces of that. If it were a cube of it, which is 3/8, 3/8, 3/8, 3/8, 3/8, 3/8, that'd be 1.5 inches at a quarter of its dimension. I'm gonna get it to fit over my anvil. Now my anvil's 2.5 wide. I like the 2 inches. I've got one over here that I just made that keys into my anvil. But like when I do keychains and stuff, the way I've been doing them for a long time, and make a little curly thing stem with a loop in it, and then bend it back. This is a good length for that. 2's a little bit, barely gets it with a bend back. But I'll show you. I'll go for the highest, the thicker side first, which is the near side this time. And then move it into your anvil, tilting it. And it does jump it up there. And just, okay, I'm almost there. I'm going to come back down, tilting this other direction. And yeah, don't hit your shoulder. I'm going to go ahead and plant this shit. And I'll show you the reason for getting over your anvil. So if I want to make it round, which is what I do most of the time, I'm not going to worry about it here. But if it's over the anvil, see, you can hit this side no matter what. If it doesn't matter if that thing was, you know, just that long, because you have the centerized shoulders on the diamond. But to hit these sides without hitting that, what sticks up, you want to be over your anvil or have a step where you can use a corner, and I don't have that here, but it does reach a little bit here where I'm not going to hit my shoulder, and on that side I could get all the way up to the edge. And you know, this side you can't do this because that makes it longer that way. You'd have to go here, and I used to do that with my regular anvil a lot, you know, that had a step, and use the corner to get in even smaller places than this. But yeah, and this is a good length for a keychain, where I don't know if you've seen them bend them. It has a loop. It's on some of the other videos, but anyway. So I could do something with that. I'm not gonna waste the time on this video making anything, but these exercises are good to do. I'm gonna go back through them. I'll just go ahead and cool this end off, and I'll start with this end that I've done. That's when I did that ring previously. But I'll just do those three things again. Just a second. Let me cool this off. Okay, near side. Cube. Oh, that's a miss blow, huh? But that doesn't do anything, does it? Put it back on the dies. I'm just staying on the anvil here. I'll go ahead and do it here. I just want to show you the two different ways. I'll go ahead and hit those highs. And yeah, I'm doing it with my round part. And you're kind of straightening and planting. But one more heat. That had the point on it also. You know, that was a taper and a cube, so that's the length there. Difference. A little bit more material. I'm going to get rid of it now. I could do more, but I'm not going to. You don't really need to take it more than that. I'm just staying here at the base. And I do want to show you, you know, see how much it grew and see the bend. All right, so it's cooling down. I'm going to move up into it. And that is so important to be able to do that. If you heated that back up and moved started hammering it there, it's not going to do that. There's no way. I'm going to go ahead and straighten this out a little bit. That's that missed blow. It bent that. But I'm not going to mess with the rolled scroll. So if I say this was a hairpin or something like that, some kind of a stick pin or whatever, which I've done quite a few. Got that. I did some heather with carton. But you know, if I hit down on this, and this is what I'll do with a piece that's got something on the end, you know, I'll hit it on the horn or whatever, and it starts it to bend, you know. And see, that's a bend. That is not a kink. That's, you know, I can kink it like you bend back and forth wire. You know, that's a kink, and it'll break right there. You know, so yeah, I'll get rid of this. Don't leave these on the ground either. Horses, tractors, cars, trucks don't like these things sticking in. So yeah, I usually get rid of that, but I'm not going to worry about that either. I'm going to do the far-sided taper next. Okay, again, got a cube. I guess I should go more of a normal rate, but and I'll go ahead and get rid of on the other side. I don't need to plan it. Should, you know, if you're making something, go ahead. But how about if I go like this, huh? See how it lights it up? Small surfaces. I wouldn't normally do that, you know, but you can, especially you want to impress the girls, you know. Like, ooh, wow, it's glowing. And I mean the guys by that when I say that, or anyone, the blacksmiths, you know, some of them fascinated with metal. But yeah, and I'll get rid of that. You can light that metal up anywhere you hit it. If you hit it squarely, what you'll start to notice, especially if you work copper and silver, gold, aluminum, clay, when you have a faceted piece, square, whatever, when you strike it correctly, squarely, and it makes it shorter and thicker, it actually bows the sides out, it pooches them out. If it's too rectangular, it folds it over one direction. But you hit it just right, it will actually make what were flat sides before bow out. And if it's bowing, it'll be glowing, is what I try to tell people. If it's not bowing, it's not glowing. You know, it's not. And yeah, you can really see that in subdued lights and stuff too. But you know, I'm gonna go do this a little bit just to show you this far near side again. You know, and you're trying to hold square, and yeah, before you get to that, you know, it's better to hit this way, back on your piece, and I'm gonna get rid of this. And I do encourage you to do this little number where you move into it and see that it stays straight. And go ahead, heat it up, back up, and do that and see what you get too. Now this bow occurred because of the heat that was in here and the hold into the shoulder. You know, keeping the hold at first with some tension. After a while, you basically don't need to, but holding your shoulders is important so you get even shoulders. But I'll hit the, you know, again, you know, and it bent on the diamond. No, kind of, not quite. But yeah, and just get rid of that. You know. And then the middle taper. That's what I call it. It's a tape. You know, Alex Steele, he did a good video early on when he learned about tapers and bars. He called them forward taper, reverse taper, or bars. You know? And I don't think a lot of people understood that early video, but that was one of the better videos out in the world on blacksmithing at the time. It was a really good explanation, and you know, he was also recording as he did it. But yeah, you're doing tapers and bars, and then distorting it to something else, whatever. You know, like that horse head. You know, that's taper, bar, taper, you know, and yeah, left the bar, but then you got it distorted, you know, with fullers and whatever, put holes in it, things like that. Tongs, knives, everything, tapers and bars. And the difference between a reverse taper and forward taper is whichever direction you're looking at from. They're both tapers. So yeah, this is the middle taper. And you know, there's more complex tapers I've done too, as far as isolations and you know, just very small differences. I did a bangle one time with flowers all the way around it. You know, I forget how many flowers, but quite a few. The spacing wasn't much bigger than the flower in between every flower, but it was moved extremely and isolated very little bit of material. So there's isolation here. Go ahead and do this side a little bit more, and then move into that, tilting the hammer. And that's all I'll do. You know, when I'm doing this, I'm not hitting it to move it. All I'm doing is taking little bitty highs off, and then, you know, kind of straightening it. But I'll do another heat on it. But yeah, I really encourage you to try these techniques out. Havana in 2020, when they asked me to do the 2022 Havana conference that got canceled, they actually published that I had come up with a new way of drawing out metal using the edges of the anvil as opposed to the horn. I had to laugh. This is the old way. I didn't come up with this. This is how it's always been done, and it's still done on, like, you know, big power hammers and everything. You know, industry, baby bites. You know, they use edge on edge blows more often on open die forging. free-handed, you know, without tooling. But it's the same thing. And yeah, this is definitely how, you know, if you look at knives and tongs, scissors, things like that, this is the way things were always made. These isolation stuff, you know, gun parts, the little trigger parts and stuff, these little shoulder drops and all that. This is the old way. The new way is the forging on the horn, like they get that from farriers and stuff. Farriers never stopped forging, shoeing horses. Machines don't shoe horses, so they kept forging, and it's a bit different than general blacksmithing. They shape shoes more, and they punch holes and do turning and things like that. There is some forging, like dimensional movement, especially nowadays with WCB and stuff. They're more advanced than they used to be on the building shoes and things. That's good to see too. But yeah, take another heat. This is the old ways. So it doesn't matter which way I go. I'll go ahead and start the other way this time than I did last time. And I'm going to get it way longer than my, in between my Anvil, just because I'm choosing to hang with it and move it, whatever. I'm basically trying to show you how I'm hitting, you know. And this is just straightening right here. You're not smashing. See? But yeah. You'll see on some of my videos, especially with the bigger stuff too, when I have lot more that I'm isolating, not just a cube or you know, maybe 3/4 inch at the most, in between, you know, these sizes. I'll actually, before I've done this and all, I'll avoid my shoulder. I'll start with my shoulders usually down like this and hold the angle, and then I come around and then keep pulling on, and you know, I can lower the angles too as I pull this back, and then when you finally get where this can go over your edge here, you can hold straight, and you know, but this is where to start, you know. And yeah, I suggest, you know, 3/8, no bigger than 1/2 inch, and try it. You know, do the little stuff later too. The little stuff's trickier than the bigger stuff, but once you can keep it hot, and yeah, you got to be active, you know, and aggressive, and you know, and yeah, you're hitting. See, these are lumps. You don't make them flat till later. The flat, too much surface area contact with the anvil and hammer will kill your heat. You know, that's just the law. I don't make them up. I just observe them. You know, second law of thermodynamics. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this rounding hammer on the diamond here. Now I'm going to tilt my hammer, and I'm just going to go from the middle to the sides. Now I usually would turn this over, but I'm not going to. And you see, I'm going straight up and down here. You see the mark? And you would look at that, and then you take and you go whichever direction you choose. And yeah, bend your knees, do your wrist down here, and tilt your hammer here, and you're hitting little bitty spots. You know, if you wanted to hit here, you know, you can like this. You know, and like this. I don't like this as much because I can't see it. I can see better here because my face here is not in the way. but I wasn't really hitting it. But you'll see, you can take it in any direction you want by tilting that hammer. Don't not. I hardly ever do this unless it's a small surface, like the point was, the diagonal or whatever, and you still have your points here, you know. But, and yeah, I was off the thing. Hey, that almost looks like, I don't know, one of those things when people talk in comics, upside down, something. Anyway, you know, mess around. And yes, the grind of your hammer. Now, there's a lot of people making rounding hammers now, all over the world. And there are very few that are grinding them very well. A properly ground rounding hammer has more surfaces to forge with than any other hammer that has ever been come up with that I know of. The cat head does not count, guys. That's a joke. Anyway, you want these edges relieved. You don't want a half a circle. It's kind of a squash ball, and you want to be able to hit, different size fullers. And yeah, that sometimes. And then the round or the flat face, which shouldn't be flat, should be domed, crowned, whatever. You also want ground, and where you can use those edges, and yes, like these hills sometimes the diagonal, and it's larger, it's longer than what this hits because it's curved all the way. This has a slight, length on them, kind of like a cross beam or straight beam. And I do use, cross beams sometimes too, quite often, by the way. But the most versatile hammer I use for doing general work is a properly ground rounding hammer. And you don't want those edges, sharp, sudden edges that I've been seeing out there. You don't want flat. But yeah, and learn to use them and see the marks they make. If you got a piece of clay, whatever, this is this was a Hardy. I was going to make a certain Hardy tool the other day, and I decided not to. I'm just going to isolate something here and start hammering. I'll probably just like get rid of this, But yeah, that that's coming straight down and hits a big area. So you don't want to keep hitting that because that just makes back here bigger, this bigger, and too much surface contact. So if you drop and you hit, like this, and yeah, I usually turn over, and then you turn over again, and anyway, you can avoid hitting your stem, and you can take this however and wherever you want. And you're tilting it. So the more you tilt it, the smaller it's going to hit. If you tilt it a little bit, well, what do I hit now? Tilt it like that, tilt it like that, tilt it like that. It gives you a different size, and you don't always want to hit too small, but you definitely don't want to hit full face until the later, straightening and planishing stages. You don't try and move metal with your full face. A piece of plant life in there or something. Yeah, I mean, when people use flat hammers, that's what these are referred to as banging on the flat die. You know, they're trying to bang on flat surface, but use the edges of your anvil and the edges of your hammer, and you'll be able to forge more effectively, and you'll learn quick control, accuracy, you know, and yeah, you'll move the metal rapidly, uh, like it should be normally. Not, never mind. Anyway, have at it, guys, and let me know how you're doing with it. You know, and if you have any trouble, ask some questions. Thank you.